Welcome candidate for governor, State Senator Sonia Chang-Diaz.
Hello, Democrats. I'm Sonia Chang-Diaz. I'm a mom, a former public school teacher, a state senator, a grassroots organizer. I am running for governor to build the Commonwealth that you and I both know is possible, and the Commonwealth that we all want our kids to grow up in. I grew up moving between two different worlds as the multiracial child of a single mom in a mostly wealthy white community. My dad, he was an immigrant to this country from Costa Rica. He came with $50 in his pocket. But because he had the help of teachers and lunch ladies and librarians along the way, he made it not only to college, but to space, and became NASA's first Latino astronaut. My mom is a social worker and a woman of faith, and she spent her career helping women and children struggling on the margins of society. Growing up, it was clear my family was different. My classmates had cars and took trips to Europe. We didn't have those things. But I got the same great education as the rest of the kids in my zip code. And for that, I am forever grateful. But I also know my story is an exception. So when I graduated from college, knowing full well what a difference this incredible education had made in my life, I wanted to pay that debt forward. So I decided to become a teacher in one of the poorest and the least funded school districts in Massachusetts, Lynn. Every day in Lynn, I could feel the way that the wealth divide impacted my students. Never enough paper in the supply closet, kids coming to school without winter coats, low expectations, too many students on each teacher's roster. I saw the way that state and local government went above and beyond to care for the children of wealthy families like the ones that I had grown up with, but somehow lost that urgency when it came to kids struggling on the margins. State government was choosing not to see them, choosing to abandon my students in Lynn. So I became an organizer. I went out and I organized for the things that would produce change for my students. Voting rights, more women in office, progressive policy. But still, progressive change wasn't coming. So in 2008, I decided to run myself. And to the surprise of all the naysayers, I won. And I became the first Latina to serve in the Massachusetts State Senate. For the 12 years since then, I've been fighting like hell alongside working families. And I found myself, once again, moving between those two worlds, going from fancy boardrooms in the morning to housing development community rooms at night. And in those travels back and forth, I discovered something was missing from the culture on Beacon Hill: urgency. In Massachusetts, we like to consider ourselves the best and the brightest, the most progressive. But the truth is, our systems are failing hundreds of thousands of families. And for the past 7 years, whenever working families have pushed for progress, Charlie Baker has repeatedly blocked, delayed, watered down that progress. That is how today in the Commonwealth of Massachusetts, we've got kids who will work for years to earn their degree, but get crushed under a mountain of student debt. We've got moms and dads who wonder whether their babies will inherit a planet that can sustain them. And we've got Black and brown kids and their parents who worry that their next encounter with the police will be their last. It does not have to be this way. We are up against tremendous challenges in Massachusetts: a global pandemic, an economy that only works for those at the top, a racial reckoning overdue, the consequences of change. My friends, big problems like these demand solutions at a scale to match. If we're going to get that, we have got to stop putting people in charge who are more concerned with holding on to power than doing something with it. This is Massachusetts. We know how to solve big problems. In a state with more millionaires than 46 other states, we for damn sure can pass a millionaire's tax and build a more just economy. And as we see the wealth divide growing across our state, we can overcome it by investing intentionally in economic mobility. And you know what else? There's more. We can and we should be leading on voting rights and health equity and greening our energy use and building a 21st century transit system. We could close the racial wealth divide. Imagine that. Rebuild the middle class and invest in all of our kids. I know that transformational change like this is possible because I have lived it. I have stood alongside advocates and community leaders and so many of you to build a movement across this state. A movement to win real K-12 funding change, even when the Baker-Polito administration said it was impossible. A movement to win transgender equal rights for Bay Staters, even when Charlie Baker opposed it. A movement to win comprehensive criminal justice reform, even when Baker looked the other way on a broken and racist criminal justice system. And now we are building a movement to take on Charlie Baker himself. My campaign is building this movement with grassroots activists, voters of color, working people, young people, progressive voters across this state. Building coalitions, winning coalitions, like that is what I have been doing for the past decade plus. I know what is possible. I am running for governor of Massachusetts because I believe that this moment demands, we need to meet this moment with bold solutions and urgency. If that's a future that you believe in, a cause worth rolling up your sleeves and fighting for, I am asking you to join me today. Go to SoniaChang-Diaz.com, sign up to work with us to win, stand up unapologetically for our values. Fairness, dignity, community. That's how we're gonna win in November 2022, and that's how we're gonna build the Massachusetts that will work for all our families. Democrats, thank you, and let's get to work.